Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Brew with the Crew. I'm super excited to have Kaleigh here with us. I'm going to have Alex introduce Kaleigh here in a minute, but what I want to do is welcome everyone to Brew with the Crew every Tuesday at 7 a.m. here on Zoom. I want to go around the room really quick and get a quick introduction. First of all, my name is Joshua Rosales. I am president of Break Thru Nashville. We also started Break Thru Resources and then president of Better Options in Franklin. We focus on the really focused on the Hispanic community, but we also service other demographics, not just keeping it to the Hispanic community, but we really want to serve the Hispanic community. And also am a business development and small business acquisition specialist with First Horizon Bank in Cool Springs. Love to network. Got a family of 4. My wife is also a big networker as well. But that's a little bit about me. I'm super excited to be serving alongside with Alex and Ashley Gaylor, who bring so much. It seems like we're like the powerhouse team. Like, we network together, we pull our connections together. Like, it's insane. But that's a little bit about me. Ashley, how about you?
Hello, Ashley Gaylor here. I am on the board as well of Break Thru Resources with Joshua and Alex. I'm vice chair. Always looking for ways to help my community and be able to give back any way I can. And the 3 of us really put our heads together, constantly trying to come up with ways we can give back and what the community needs. We hear people, and we try to talk and listen to be able to come up with solutions to be able to give back. I'm a life insurance agent with New York Life. It's what I do for a living. I have me and my wife live here in East Nashville. I do have children back in East Tennessee. Just love doing these calls with these guys. We look every day for ways that we can come up with to be able to help the community in any way we can. So anytime anybody's watching these videos or hear any content we put out, if you have suggestions on things needs that you see, please feel free to shoot us a message. We would love to hear your feedback on any of that. We are wide open to any kind of feedback anybody has on things they see that maybe where people need help. Thank you.
And Alex, it's all yours, man.
You got it. So I'm Alex Okagu. I'm also on the board of Break Thru Nashville. Met Josh when he was doing the food box program in Central Tennessee, and really hit it off with the same vision. I saw what he was doing and how he was investing in the Hispanic community and some of the initiatives that he was talking about that he wanted to do. I got behind and really wanted to be involved. My background is technology. So that's one thing that we've really wanted to push, is using technology in these endeavors to really reach and be able to spread the word. This Zoom calls are part of that initiative. And so I want to be a part of that. I currently work at Sony Music. I handle their technology needs on site and as well as remote. And then I also live in Nashville, South Nashville, with my wife and kids. We've been here for about 2.5 years now, and really excited to see where this goes. We are trying to get involved in a lot of initiatives this year in 2022, and this has kind of been the launch of that. And so I'm really excited to see where everything starts to go and what kind of impact we can have in the area this year.
So Alex, go ahead and introduce our Kaleigh, and however you want to do it, and we'll get into it.
No problem. You got it. So Kaleigh is a relative of mine. She is my cousin-in-law, my wife's first cousin. We've known each other for about 12 years now. And her and I have these conversations during our family gatherings, just about things that she's doing in the avenue of fundraising and networking and the many people she's talked to and the initiatives she's been involved in. So I thought it was very important to have this discussion with her, as well as us consulting with her in this arena. And I think the knowledge that she has could be very helpful to a lot of people. So Kaleigh, if you want to introduce yourself, we'll go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Kaleigh Rayburn. I am currently residing in Indianapolis, Indiana. I have been fundraising since about 2013 as part of my career. So it's been a hot minute. But currently I'm in the middle of a $40 million campaign over 5 years here in Indiana for conservation. It's been an incredible success so far, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from there. But I'm just really excited to be here, excited to talk to you guys. Like Alex said, we have been having conversations at family gatherings about what we do, and it's just been such an encouragement to talk to them and hear what you guys have been doing. So I'm very excited to be able to talk to you guys today.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. We'll start the conversation. And of course, having someone of your caliber, and I know you could probably, well, I haven't really done that much, and you really have, and it's just built up over a period of time with the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more knowledge you have, just the time, the blood, the sweat, the tears that you've put into your craft, sharpening your skill set to make you be in the position where you're at right now, doing amazing fundraising work for huge companies. And so, a lot of times, finding myself or other small nonprofit leaders where it's like, okay, let me ask for the $10 here, the $20 there. Oh, I got $1,000. We hit the jackpot. But it's like then getting into the grants and the grant writing and then getting into with the state and federal government, and just there's the waters get deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you get to a point where you need someone to help you navigate those waters, because there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of verification, there's just a lot of things like there. It's crazy. Right now, working with Ashley and Alex know, working with a possible tutoring program, which I think it's a go here, working with the governor's office and the education board for Rutherford County for a tutoring program. It seems like we got favorable, they're favorable to it. And so we're just barely working on that right now, but it's a process for me as a nonprofit leader. It's been a process learning that, oh, wow, like you really got to have your paperwork in line. You got to be organized. And if you're not organized, you need someone that is organized, and you got to have people on your team that complement each other. So, with your early on career getting into nonprofit, like how long ago did you start working with nonprofits or getting into like fundraisers? And then from what was the, like, I guess the starting point for you? Like what made you get into the field that you're in now?
Yeah, so back in 2013, which is when I want to say I started fundraising because it was just an innate part of my job. I graduated from college in 2013 and immediately went into missionary work. And part of your job as a missionary is to build up a team of supporters, both financial and prayer wise. And so a lot of what you do before you're even allowed to hit your mission field is fundraising your salary. And until you hit that 100% funded, you're not allowed to go and do your job. And then as you're going out, as you're doing your mission work, you are still, stewarding all of the donors that you've cultivated over that time period of partner development when you're raising those funds initially. So my introduction to fundraising started as just a part of my job, as more of a means to an end. And I think that if you are in that field at all, that's what they're going to say, is that it is you do ministry partner development by faith. And it's kind of a joke in that field. But it wasn't until it was 2018, I want to say, that I started doing it in a more professional, like bigger field sense. I started working for a hospital foundation, and we were in the middle of a capital campaign for building a new hospital. And that was when I really got my first initial start into doing it in a bigger capacity, because when you're doing ministry partner development, you are asking for those $10, $20 gifts, monthly gifts, annual gifts that are a little bit smaller. When you hit $1,000, you're like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. I just hit the jackpot, kind of like what you just said. And then moving more into a professional fundraising setting where it's not just part of my job, it's my full job. That's when you get into those bigger donors and learn a lot more about the strategic side of things. So that is kind of where I started and how I got to where I am.
That's incredible. What have you seen since you've started? The biggest difference with fundraising and with grant writing? What are some of the biggest challenges that some new or brand, or I guess say small nonprofits face, you feel, and how can they overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think that with smaller nonprofits, a lot of it is just the resources that they have available to them. Working for larger organizations, larger nonprofits, we have resources to be able to purchase, lists of donors in the area that are philanthropic, that have the capacity to give these larger gifts. For smaller nonprofits, that's not really the case. They don't have the ability to do that. It's also the resources available to you to do research, to have a database, a really efficient database to maintain your information and to continue to do the work in the long haul. I think that another really hard thing to come by is the capacity to sustain loyal donors that are going to be growing in their capacity. If you don't have someone that is really focused on donor stewardship and keeping them engaged with the mission regularly and consistently and building those relationships stronger and stronger over time, you're going to see a lot of donor turnover. And that's really difficult. When it comes to grant writing, it's just having someone that knows the language, having someone that can look at those challenges that you were talking about earlier, where that world seems a little bit more overwhelming, that can take those challenges and look at them and see an elephant and know, like, you know what, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and can look at that and see a system and see steps, smaller steps to be able to work through the system in a way that's not as overwhelming and that is a little bit more strategic, and that you're able to kind of break down those steps and meet people along the way that can help you along the way. That's another big thing, building connections within those systems so that process isn't as daunting, because you have people that are on your side that are fighting for you, that are in your corner.
What are some of the best resources a small nonprofit group could start getting into to start learning the process? And as we all know, even myself, it's like some grant writers won't even touch your stuff unless it's $35 plus per hour, just to even look at it. And so a lot of small nonprofits, I think they get intimidated as well, as kind of like, well, we don't have the money to pay for a grant writer. And they think grant writers are very expensive. There's some grant writers out there that are very inexpensive. It just takes a lot of time and effort to really look and network and connect and build relationships to where you can get those larger grant writers. But a lot of people either don't want to put the time in, they don't have the time to put the time in, or they don't have a good team around them to utilize their other connections. And one thing that I have learned is that when you have a board, you want to put people around you that have deep connections in the community. Either they have money, they know someone with money, they have a large connection, because when we all come together and we network, we need everybody's to come to the table and help us, accomplish the goal. So, what are some of the resources that you would recommend these beginner or these new nonprofit leaders or small nonprofit leaders could start, tapping into?
Yeah, so one, you were talking about building a board, a strong board. I think that that is an incredible tool to have at the get-go, is making those connections in the community and having a board that's going to get, give, or do. So they're going to get you connections, they're going to give, they're going to be financial donors themselves. So they're going to do, they're going to be doing the legwork and taking some of that lift off of your shoulders, and they're going to be out there doing the groundwork for you. So building a strong board is definitely a huge resource from the get-go. But as far as grant writing and fundraising goes, it is just getting into the world as you know it, finding resources online, donor relations. There's a donor relations council. There's national organizations that are just completely focused on donor relations and fundraising, and they offer seminars, they offer classes, they offer these online conferences where you can go and hear from fundraising professionals about how to tell your story, about how to make these connections, and how to find people in your area that are professionals in this industry that may want to work with you on your mission. And I think that when you're talking about grant writers being expensive, that can definitely be the case, because when you're doing more consulting work or grant writing work that's off the cuff, instead of working for a specific organization, you're working and wanting to get paid as if you're making commission on the gifts that you're going to be helping raise for the organizations that are hiring you. But I don't want you to confuse quality of grant writers with price of grant writer. A lot of grant writers out there, the most passionate ones that I've known, the best ones that I've known, they could care less about the money that they make. Like, yes, they want to make a living, but they really just want to make a difference. And I think that that is also what you're going to find in quality of donor. It's all about a passion for your mission and a passion for actually helping people in this industry, and not about making a paycheck. So if you are engaging with people that are passionate about what you do, it's going to come across in the writing. It's going to come across in the work. If you're hiring someone based on a paycheck because it's like, oh, they're really expensive, so they must do quality work, that's going to get you into a loophole where you're working with people who are doing this for a lot of organizations and trying to make money. And that's not always the case. I don't want to speak on everyone's intentionality behind what they do, because I think that's unfair for me to say. But I would really highly caution against seeking out quality based on price.
Interesting.
Really good points.
Mhm.
Really good points.
What would you say, Kaleigh, as far as your experience? Oh, wait a minute. Looks like he's lagging. Hold on one second.
What do y'all think?
You went out just briefly, Josh, but I was going to ask Kaleigh real quick. What have you found as far as you talking about the quality of these donors, the quality of those relationships? What kind of arenas are you finding a lot of these people who you find are very passionate, that you actually can have the conversations with, that are eager to take it to a next level or learn your story or learn about your background? What are some of those settings that you have seen these people or these arenas that they come from?
Yeah, so that's going to be a little different depending on what market you are fundraising for. So I've worked in healthcare fundraising, I've worked in faith-based fundraising, I've worked in now conservation fundraising. And so depending on what market you're looking at is going to be where you find these people. So for conservation fundraising, what we're finding is a lot of people that our board are giving us connections to, and a lot of that is just people who are out in the trails. It's people who are in industries that are focused on conservation practices and sustainability. So anything dealing with solar power, anything dealing with tech or industrial work, people who are into environmental law, people who are into environmental policy, people who work in those arenas are going to be the people who are going to be engaged in our mission doing conservation work. Same thing with health care. It's going to be people that are partnering with hospitals and people who are, well, I think that's like everybody, that really benefit from a hospital setting, benefit from healthcare. With a faith-based mission, it's going to be people that are engaged in that community, in a faith community. So if you're looking for a more community-oriented donor base, it's going to be people. So I don't know what your connection, like, base looks like right now. If you have a loyal donor base, that can start introducing you to more and more people in your communities. I was on your website and like learned a little bit about your mission. And if it is really community oriented and building up resources for the Latino community, you're going to need to go into those communities, look at these business owners, look at these people in your community that are leaders, that are passionate about your mission, that have statements in their missions that say that they want to build up communities of Latino people, that they want to build up resources for the people around them. It's all about finding people that are like-minded, that have some sort of leadership in the community. And that's going to really build up a loyal donor base, because at that point, it's not just asking them for money. It's not a transaction. You are doing the work together. You guys are, taking on the mission together, and it's more of a camaraderie. It's teamwork. It's not just them giving you money.
Very good. Very good points.
Mm-hmm. Would you consider that a business walk and talk would be a good way to facilitate those connections within the communities?
Yes.
Going in and face to face with those business owners and introducing yourself.
Good idea.
Yeah, fundraising is definitely an old school practice where it's not going to be something that you're just transactionally sending an email and immediately wanting to build that connection and it's going to happen. It is getting there face to face, talking to these people, building a relationship, building a connection that's genuine, and actually talking about the things that you're passionate about, because that is what builds that trust for them to engage with you and partner with you. I think that's another reason why I love fundraising so much, is because you get to see the best parts of people and the best parts of humanity, because it's all about coming together to do the good work that you guys are all passionate about and having a similar goal in mind and working towards that. And I think that Josh keeps on wanting to.
Yeah. Are you still, we keep hearing your audio here and there, Josh.
Hey, Kaleigh, I was going to ask you,
Here we go.
what's the most,
He muted himself again.
You did.
You're muted. We'll give him a second here.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get Alex on that.
That's right.
And say we can also
Gotta get that technology working right?
Josh,
I'll say this, Kaleigh, while we're waiting for him to respond, I'll ask this question. Do you find that a lot of times you're kind of in a coffee and sit down kind of setting when you're talking with donors, or is it on the go? What scenarios do you find yourself in most when you're having these conversations to connect with people?
Standard practice is meeting people for coffee, for dinner, go like right now that I'm working in conservation, going on a hike, getting out in nature, seeing the things that we're actually, trying to save in my practice right now. COVID has made that a little bit more difficult. So a lot of it has been over Zoom. But typically it's going to be making phone calls and scheduling in-person meetings over coffee or dinner, or whatever the donor prefers. And so it is a lot of face-to-face conversations that are happening, because like I said, fundraising is ultimately just building connections, just building relationships and cultivating that trust.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
All right. So Josh, if you
Kaleigh,
are still having some issues, you can always type in chat.
Looks like he's back going there. Kaleigh, while we're still waiting on him to come back, I have a question. Do you depending on the situation and who you're partnering with, do you, or maybe it's anyone that you're partnering with, do you direct people to like a certain point to get, information about what you're doing outside of what the conversation, as far as websites, like marketing materials, things like that, like handouts, tripos, things of that nature? Do you carry those with you?
Yes, having a leave behind marketing tool is really a great way to keep them engaged after the meeting, because there's no way that you're going to be able to cover everything in this initial meeting. And that can often spur more conversations with this person as they look over those marketing materials, read about the work that you're doing, and get more questions, because a lot of these initial conversations, they're not going to know what to ask until they know what to ask. It's kind of, it's one of those situations. So they only know the information that you're telling them, and there's no way in your brain that you can hold everything to be able to share with them and fully encapsulate all that you're doing. That takes a lot of time and a lot of conversation to happen. So having a leave behind, having a website that states more of the initiatives that you're trying to accomplish, more of your mission statement, has testimonies from people who have volunteered with you or, you know, partnered with you in the past, so you're really working with, that your mission is more targeted towards. Having those things available that tell your story for you are so important, because that's going to lead to more questions, more interest, and getting people more engaged.
Yeah, that's good info. Also, what's your thoughts on any charitable contributions as far as tax laws go? Do you have someone that you send somebody to say, hey, you know, talk to them about this, or do you have a broad, you know, knowledge of it that you just, you know, give them a little bit of information on that? How do you handle those situations?
So yeah, any fundraiser should have a general knowledge about tax law and charitable giving.
Yeah.
Just like working with philanthropists, typically they're going to know about that already. But if they do have questions, obviously I am not an expert on tax law in any capacity, but it's nothing that you can't research. It's nothing that you can't, you know, figure out by other professionals that are working in your arena or something like that. Any nonprofit is going to have some information regarding tax law and charitable giving. And you can always put up a statement on your online giving page. I know that you guys have a link on your website. You can have language written there that gives them a general overview of what that might look like. Also, that tax law is going to be changing. It evolves, as you know, and depending on how they decide to give, it can change based on that, because people can give through a donor advised fund, people can give through their estate via planned giving, people can give via stock gift. So there's all these different ways to give that are going to affect how they're affected by that tax law and how their finances are impacted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that can drive how people give too. A lot of people, they give a very specific way because of the way that it's going to impact their finances.
I guess that's an interesting point to make as well, which we found a lot of organizations, a lot of people tend to give with the intent of being able to get some kind of opportunity on the other end as well, with taxes and all. So the question for you is, are you finding a lot of times with your fundraising efforts that people tend to be more open towards the end of the end of the year?
Yeah.
Or what does that look like, that timeline overall with people?
End of year giving is huge. So that is actually a really big strategic piece in any kind of fundraising. We typically, standard practice for nonprofits, for large organizations, is you send out end of year solicitation letters or an end of year stewardship piece to remind people like, hey, you can give.
Yeah.
And end of the year is typically a really busy time as far as gift processing and end of year reporting and everything like that. So it is a strategic piece when it comes to when you have a larger donor base and how you want to approach them and just time frame. End of year people are, one, typically more generous because of the holidays, and then two, because of the tax break and wanting to get that on their taxes
Exactly.
before they file them. So it's always
And
tough.
even you found that pretty much across the board, no matter what efforts that you're working with, missions, hospital work, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that is.
And then also related to that, with the people that end up giving. Now, this is a huge campaign that you're working on even now. all of those people, a lot of them, do they end up being people that are customers or have a vested interest in a particular hospital? Are they philanthropic, meaning obviously that they have huge assets to be able to work with a few individuals, 50 individuals? What are you finding with these size campaigns? Is it more micro giving, or is it something where few people come in and they handle the majority of a weight with something like that?
Yeah, so currently in the campaign that I'm working on, it's working with a lot of our major donors. The organization I work for now, it is what we call a major gifts shop. So we are working with a donor base, a portfolio of probably 300 major donors
Wow. Yeah.
that we know are going to give us anywhere from like 5 to 6 to 7-figure gifts. And so it's a lot of that. We're only a year into our campaign and we're already at the 56% mark as far as our fundraising goes, which means that we're over $20 million into our campaign. For a smaller nonprofit, you're going to see more of those gifts that are on the smaller end of the spectrum. And it's all about building up your relationship with those donors to build up their capacity, if they have capacity to build up their willingness to engage with you more and more, and hopefully see that gift build. Does that answer your question at all?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Okay.
no, that makes sense, because even with what your mentality is, it seems like you're alluding to make sure that the person, no matter whether they're giving 2 million to your campaign or if they're giving you $25, make sure everyone feels like across the board that their gift makes a huge difference. And I'm sure with many fundraising campaigns, it's great to get the big donors and all that, but you find oftentimes, just look at GoFundMe, for instance, those little gifts of those people who are impassioned about giving to a cause add up real fast when you've got 100,000 people giving micro amounts or whatever it may be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So making sure these people feel like they're a part of something. That's a question that I wanted to ask you about related to those platforms. What have you found, not necessarily that you would use these kind of platforms for the hospital giving or anything like that. Have you dabbled in the online platform fundraising model in any way? Are you familiar with the way people actually set those up and try to seek funds by telling a story online, you know, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, all that kind of stuff? Do you ever dabble in that arena at all as far as technology, or it's usually just strictly kind of in person, on the phone, that kind of thing?
So currently right now, it is a lot of on the phone and in person. That is going to be the primary way professionally fundraising is done in this sector. But online platforms are a big way to get your story out there and to kickstart campaigns. Like making a campaign or a fundraising video where you're able to really clearly communicate your mission and tell your own story to engage a larger audience. That's a big way for smaller nonprofits to engage a larger audience and get that marketing out there, to make a name for themselves, get their face out there, to make that introduction to the community, because it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into building relationships with individual donors and having meetings with them one-on-one. That's a lot of time that smaller nonprofits may not have because they don't have the resource of a full-time fundraiser to be able to go out and do those meetings. So if you are working with a smaller group of people to raise your funds, doing something like an online platform, it would probably be the most beneficial way to go about it, because you have a large audience right off the bat. And it's so easy just to copy and paste a link and share it with people. That's actually something that I guess we do dabble in it a little bit, but we do it more so with stewardship practices, where we send out an end of year video of our staff being out in nature and thanking our donors for being a part of our mission and making our jobs possible. And so that's a huge thing that we do. It's a great touch point. It's a great way to reach more people in a very quick time frame. And it's a little bit harder to track like who's giving based on the fact that they saw any kind of online marketing tool or something like that. And it's a little bit harder to follow up. That takes a lot of intentionality and diligence to make sure that you're tracking gifts as they come in, and following up with those people who are donors to potentially build them into a loyal donor and be able to have those one-on-one meetings, because you already know that they're engaged and that they're interested in what you're doing. So
Yeah.
that's their really great benefit from doing something like that, is finding new people, finding new donors in your area and getting them engaged, because you already know that they're interested, because they already gave based on an online video or a link or something like that.
You got it.
Mhm.
And I guess
Can y'all
related
hear
to
me?
that, yes, we can, Josh.
Awesome. No, go for it, Alex.
Okay, good. I just got one more question for us. So related to that, you know how you get these mailers in the mail from the conservation organizations, and they seeds, they'll send you stickers, they'll send you all kinds of information, but also leaflets with partner organizations that they're working with in the community. You find 10 different organizations involved in some of these initiatives just through the wildlife thing that we actually receive. How does that work with your fundraising efforts, as far as, do you do initiatives with your donor base that are similar, where you're giving gifts, incentives, opportunities to participate in experiences, things like that?
Yes. So we definitely, getting to participate in experiences is a really big part of conservation fundraising, just because it is getting out there, it is going on hikes, it is seeing these destinations that you're going, that you're providing funds to help save, to help protect, to do this work. And it's a big educational piece to the work that we're doing. When you're working with something like conservation, there's a lot of science that goes behind it that is really hard to communicate well via a letter, via any kind of communication when you're not actually in it. And so being able to get out in the field with a conservation scientist who can communicate what they're doing well, that is a huge part of engaging our donor base and helping them become more passionate about what we're doing and helping them get more engaged. So yes, offering experiences is a huge thing. With donors, inviting them to volunteer at events that you're hosting in the community, that is a huge way to get them more engaged, just because donors don't just want to give you money and walk away. I've found the majority of the time that's not the case. They actually want to see the work that you're doing firsthand. It's a great way to build trust. It's a great way to show them that you have, that you're doing what you say you're going to be doing with their money, and they get to see it in action. And so inviting them to volunteer, inviting them to events that you have in the community, even if it's not on a volunteer basis, just inviting them to see the work that you're doing is a huge thing.
Very good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Hey, Kaleigh, your group that you're fundraising for, what's the name of this group that I give to Friends of the Smokies, right? So I'm a big hiker myself, so I'm always interested in how I can give back and help for conservation efforts myself. So I would be happy to learn more about who you're fundraising for.
Yeah, so I work in development for the Nature Conservancy, which is a global conservation organization. We have offices in every single state in the US. We work in, I think it's 39 different countries around the world. And we're the largest conservation organization on the world, in the world. So it's a pretty large one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been such a great learning opportunity for me to be engaged with a program that is so large, and the way to see the way that it's organized, because we do break it down by state, and then even by state we have different initiatives that we work on depending on what is necessary. So I mean, for Indiana, we are focused a lot on agriculture and freshwater work, because that's what our communities need. That's what's going to lend the greatest and that's what's gonna touch the most amount of people in our arena and what our land needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys have programs? I know Friends of the Smokies will send out letters, and then they'll especially towards the trails, especially coming time spring, they need volunteer work to help clear trails. We got winter trees down, we got to go out there and get, and I have done that before. I don't diligently do it, 'cause, you know, it's fun, but it's a lot of work too. So do you guys have projects like that where you will send things out to and let people know where you need help?
Yeah, so we typically send it to our donors who we know are going to want to do the heavy legwork, because we do a lot of like um, invasive species management. So going in and pulling out those invasive species from our preserves. We just introduced bison back into northern Indiana. Into their natural habitat, and so some of that is like barn maintenance, making sure that our barns are clean and organized, and helping our conservation staff with that. And that's not fun work necessarily. You walk away from that smelling like manure. So but it's a great way to get people engaged in our mission and see the work that we're doing. So we still invite people out to do it. And there are donors who want to get, down and dirty and get out on the trails and do that work. And you walk away exhausted, but it is a fun time and a really cool way to get them engaged with our staff too. I think that's a big part, is getting people engaged with staff.
Hey, there's no better way to get into it than get your hands dirty, right? Just get out there and go 3 miles up the trail and haul brush out of the way, or go clean out a barn stall. So that's good. That's good stuff.
Helps them put a face to the organization and a personal touch, instead of it being something where, like you said, you're just asking for money. Someone gives you the money, you walk away, or you send an email and they just give you money. They're getting to know you in a personal way, watching you work and labor in it's the very same field that you're requesting money for. And at the same time, being able to have additional conversations, additional insights, and I'm sure in droves, learning things they've never known before about the efforts and how connected and deep the entire process actually is. Instead of it just being something that's simply, okay, well, here's a paycheck. I'm sure you guys save animals and land, have a good time. You know what I mean? That's very interesting. Even that tidbit you said about the bison, I'd never even imagined an environment like that, where when you're introducing these kind of animals back, yes, there's going to be a setting where they have to be maintained and they have to be protected and they have to be cultivated to be able to then be released back. It's not as simple as just getting in a truck and transferring from one location to another. So that's it. That was even a really good insight.
Yeah. Like you said, we want, as a nonprofit organization, you never want your fundraising to be transactional. Even if donors just want to give you money and walk away, it kind of hurts my heart a little bit, because it is so much about building relationships, and that's how you build loyal donor bases. And that's how you get people truly engaged in your mission and passionate about what you're doing, is by having that relationship being built. And I mean, I learn stuff all the time when I go out into the field, where it makes me more excited about the work that we're doing as an organization, and gets me even more excited about the job that I'm doing, and helps me be able to communicate our story more. And it all around, it's just a good time. It's just a good thing to do.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, you can look at it this way, like you can donate a certain amount of money, but if you donate and then you go and volunteer, just like trail work, I've done trail work, and every time I go on one of those trails, I'm proud. I'm like, hey, I've showed my kids, hey, I helped build that, right? It's to say I gave money to do this, but that's not what you say. You say, hey, I actually picked up those rocks and put them there. You know what I mean? I helped do that. So it's a way to give back, plus be able to tell a story, down the line. So maybe if that trail's still there in 20 years, well, maybe sooner than that, with my kids, they take their kids up there and be like, hey, who put that rock there? So it's be able to tell generational stories as well, and helping and giving back. So
yeah. And honestly, Ashley, what you say about that, the stewardship teams that work for the conservation and wildlife organizations, their hands are full, because they have hundreds of acres of land that they're responsible for. And the more volunteers they get into that land to help do that work, like just the weight that lifts off of their shoulders is massive, because their hands can only do so much. And so having that volunteer power, it's crucial to being able to get our mission accomplished.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
And kind of pivoting to that aspect of yours, and now I'll let Josh ask his questions. How does someone get involved if they want to volunteer to scoop at a barn for bison? How do you get involved in something like that? Are there resources you can point them to?
Yeah, Yeah, so we actually just hired on a volunteer coordinator, well, a volunteer and events coordinator. And so she really spearheads our volunteer initiatives and all of that. On our website, we have a button that says, want to volunteer? Here you go, sign up. And so we have a database where we get notified when we have a new volunteer who's interested in coming and doing something. And we typically host volunteer events. It's not just, you come in and you volunteer when you want. It will usually get a group together to get them engaged, because when you have a group one, it's more fun because you're out there doing the hard work with other people, and having that camaraderie is really important, because when you're just out there by yourself pulling weeds, that can get tiresome and can not be as beneficial to your mental health.
Exactly, yes.
Stay motivated. So having other people out there scoop and poop with you, it's better.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, so we typically have opportunities listed on our website, or we have a database of volunteers who we know are going to go out there and that we can send emails to and invite to events. I manage one volunteer for our development team. She does a lot of database maintenance. So she does a lot of entering, interactions that we have with our donors into our donor files. She does a lot of, making note that we sent out these solicitation letters, that we sent out thank you cards, that we sent out the stuff, so that we can track all of the interactions that we have with our donor base. And so I manage her because I want to make sure that she is inputting what we need to have input. And she learned about us because she was just a loyal donor, and she was invited to an event, 20 years ago, and she's been volunteering with us ever since.
Wow.
So it's just a matter of finding people that are really passionate about what you do and want to get involved, and making sure that they know that you have a list of events that they can volunteer at on your website, or that you have like a volunteer form that they can fill out and send in to you guys to let you know that they're interested.
Very good. Very good to know for us as well in the future as we expand in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Give people a chance to get involved. So that's very good. Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Josh,
That's super excited. I know we're rebuilding our website, and having a place, like you were saying, having a place for people to go on and volunteer, sign up to volunteer, or to give, to follow up with them, is super, super important. As we close, first of all, Kaleigh, thank you again for joining us. I apologize for the interruptions, me bouncing in and out. But as we leave this morning, what is one resource or two resources that you could recommend someone to start learning how to fundraise, or maybe a podcast or a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so one or two resources that I would definitely put out. So if you go onto Spotify and if you type in nonprofit management or fundraising, you're going to find a slew of information. I do not have anyone in mind, like at the top of my brain, to really tell you guys. And I can always, I can always send Alex a text when I, go through my Spotify playlist and let him know one that I find. But something that is just invaluable, it's getting involved with a nonprofit community and learning from each other. Like I said, fundraising is an old school game. It is all about building those connections. And so there are going to be resources and books that you can read to learn more about the strategy behind things. But that's all going to be something that you need to cater to your specific community and your specific mission and your specific needs. Something that in fundraising that I have seen is that every single donor is unique and genuine. And so you need to be coming up with unique strategies to engage with those people. Your mission, depending on what it is and what industry you work in, that is going to change how you approach your fundraising strategy entirely. And so you can go in and look at resources and get a base knowledge. But the biggest part is going to be engaging with people that have similar missions to you, that are in your community, and learning from them, learning how to tell your story. Do storytelling seminars where you're learning how to communicate what you're doing with people. That is probably going to be your greatest resource. because in fundraising, it's all about telling your story and making personal connections with people. And so that would probably, if I'm going to go back to just one resource, find a storytelling seminar where you're learning from storytellers and how to communicate your mission in an effective way.
That's so good.
I love that. Love that.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Find a storytelling seminar.
Yep. Yeah, I just went to one actually a couple months ago, and it was great. And actually, we have a board meeting this Friday where we are going to be training them in how to tell our story at the Nature Conservancy to engage new donors. So storytelling is a huge thing that it's a constant learning curve.
You got it. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much, Alex, Ashley. What would y'all want to leave our audience with this morning as we get ready to tackle Tuesday?
I would say that there's a reason why we're doing these meetings with different people who are professionals in their field, who have an understanding and a grasp of how to make a difference. And obviously what Kaleigh's doing is making a huge difference. Those of us on the smaller scale of the nonprofit may say, wow, that's a huge astronomical figure that she's working with, or she works with really big things. Everything has to start somewhere. And if anything, listening to Kaleigh's story, she started somewhere with her talents that she's cultivated over the years, and it's allowed her now to make an even bigger difference in what she's doing. So we're all about trying to help people make a difference where they are, starting where you are. That's what we're doing with these podcasts that we're doing. And if there's any way that we can be of assistance to others as we're trying to educate, spread the word, and equip people with this knowledge, feel free to reach out to us for knowledge and possible resource sharing and things like that as well.
I would add, wherever you come across this content, whenever you come across this content, if, get involved in your community in some way. Help in any way that you can. It doesn't have to be money. It can be volunteering, like we talked about. It could be, food delivery, just anything that you can do to help out in the community, to give back in any way. I would suggest do it, even if it's not with us, with anybody, whatever organization you feel comfortable working with, even if it's going out by yourself and just helping somebody across the street. Just constantly looking for ways to help out and give back. Trust me, it changes lives, right? Regardless of how small you think it is, it changes lives. I've seen it firsthand and I know it. It's like that. So that's what I would add to this. And any final thoughts, Josh?
I think he froze.
So I would say that,
There we go.
okay. First of all, I would say, don't give up. Being a nonprofit, founding a nonprofit, kind of like a business. There's a lot of days you feel like just throwing in the towel, and there's a lot of days where you feel like you're doing this all by yourself, and you feel like, where is my support? But let me just encourage y'all out there that you're not alone. That there's people out there that are cheering for you, that are celebrating you. You're doing amazing things. You're doing things that people wish that they would be doing. A lot of times, founding a nonprofit or being involved in a nonprofit, a lot of people live through you doing this nonprofit. It takes a lot of time. It takes effort. It takes work. Success is spelled W-O-R-K, and you're not going to be, successful overnight. It's going to be days and weeks and months and late hours and till 12, 1, 2 in the morning sometimes working. It's going to be 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week sometimes. It's going to be that, but it's going to, at the end of the day, we're touching lives. And the one thing itself is to consistently use social media, to go onto Instagram, look for other nonprofits, same arena that you're in, and plug it into Instagram and follow them and interact with them and conversations and hijack their conversations and input your don't be afraid to step out. Don't be afraid to say, hey, can we meet for coffee? Understand. And, for myself, I like look influencers that have like 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 of followers, and share that story with them of your nonprofit, because if you can get them on board, that's 50,000, 100,000 followers that you're going to be able to share your story with if you get them on board. And then also is continue to use your social media to look at those friends that you have or friends of friends to see who they are, who they work for, what they do for a living, and really get into conversation with who they are. You never know the connections that they have. And then of course, really looking at your board and really identifying the strengths and opportunities and leveraging those on your board, that we can all come together and really network and find some resources. I know Alex, myself,
since we are wrapping it up here, it's a
Yes.
little bit after the hour. Kaleigh, we will definitely be in touch to discuss more with you. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Yeah, thanks for
You've given
inviting
so
me.
much insight in such a small period of time. So thank you.
Yeah,
Very
of
much.
course. Thank you guys for having me. It was great to talk to you.
You got it.
Oh.